has the privilege of being perceived as being alternative in this space that we're in now. Hi, my name is Ellen. I'm an artist. Today I'm going to do a quick video just kind of discussing about like who gets the privilege of being perceived as being alternative when we have these strict rules about what is and what isn't alternative when it's not even fully defined. So like, comment, share, subscribe to like join in on the conversation. I promise you this video is going to be quick. I just recorded 2 other videos and one of them I'm going to have to delete. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's get into it. Since we haven't fully figured out the definition of alternative, like we kind of have an idea of what the word alternative means and how to identify someone who is versus someone who isn't alternative based on looks, based on music taste, based on, values, politics, and all of that. But it's not a super concrete thing that we can fully place our eye on because I would consider myself goth and alternative. And I know that a lot of people looking at me, they probably aren't going to register that because I do a lot of creative makeup looks. I'm black. I have my natural hair color, and I don't check all the boxes of what someone would consider to be an alternative person, and that can cause someone who looks like me to be easily invalidated and referred to as a poser. So, because we don't really know what the word alternative fully means, like we know that someone who is alternative, they're more likely to alter their appearance in some way to um, fit a certain type of aesthetic that is associated with rock, goth, punk, metal type music, like people who match the vibe, who match the aesthetic of those things, people who alter their appearances in an unnatural way, like colorful makeup, colorful hair, dark hair. Um, Colorful clothes can be alternative if styled in an alternative way intentionally, like kawaii, Lolita, Yaru. I you say that. And lots of other like fashions can be alternative in a colorful way or alternative in a dark way, being goth, punk, rocker, type aesthetics. So, you know, a lot of it, how do you identify a person as alternative? A lot of it is based on aesthetic. And the question is, one, is there more to being alternative than just an aesthetic? And what even is the aesthetic anyway? So defining alternative is kind of tricky, especially in this day-to-day world in social media and whatnot. And it's ever changing, ever evolving. What's considered alternative today can be mainstream tomorrow. If we take a look at what was considered alternative maybe 20 years ago, it just looks like the basic everyday person. I would say, maybe 20 years ago, you can just put on a black t-shirt, some black jeans, barely a smidget of eyeliner, and you would be considered alternative. Versus now, if you don't look like a Killstar model, then you're a poser. If you listen to what the internet has to say about it, being alternative is kind of losing its meaning because it is becoming more normalized. It's becoming more normalized, more mainstream, more widely accepted on the internet, but outside of the internet, it's still very much stigmatized. So it's easy to kind of get lost in that. And being alternative is empowering. It does, bring a lot of confidence in a person, and it does, feel like a validation of your authenticity and your personality and everything that makes you you. And finding other people that do that as well is really nice to see. So even though the word alternative is starting to kind of lose meaning because it kind of changes based on society and lots of different things, it can be super limiting, with the current purity test and everything, because it just changes too much and it can't be super certain. I've noticed that people use the word alternative to describe a fashion sense, black clothing, bold makeup, different colors hair, body modifications, the whole thing. Like those are the boxes that people are usually looking to check when they describe someone as being alternative, which is very rigid and limiting. But for the aesthetic, that is what people are looking for. And it's not just looks, it's also about the music, the lifestyle choices, and just overall how people carry themselves. People across multiple subcultures can identify as being alternative. And there are people who consider themselves alternative because they call themselves non-conformists, which I don't know. I feel like I don't think that there is a such thing as being a non-conformist. That is my unpopular opinion. You can fight me in the chat if you want to, but I don't think that that's a real thing. I think that's something that people made up to be elitist and to try and gatekeep even more, and it just doesn't fully make any sense. But a lot of people do identify as being alternative because they consider themselves to be nonconformist, and it doesn't have much to do with the aesthetic or the music or anything. They just see themselves as someone that doesn't follow trends and doesn't follow the way of mainstream society. So the thing is that being alternative isn't just about aesthetic and music taste. It's also about your individuality. It's about your critical thinking skills. And it does involve, politics and challenges that you face in everyday life. So it is a bit more complex than just aesthetics and music. So that does, kind of complicates things a little bit more. I feel like it's more so about just being true to yourself and embracing what makes you unique, even when what you like is different from what most people like and accept as a part of mainstream culture, as long as you're not doing anything to hurt anyone. I would not consider someone to be I wouldn't consider someone that is like a predator or like out hurting people to be alternative. I would just, consider them a harmful person, for example. But, somebody that wants to live out in the woods, someone that wants to just travel the world, someone that, just has like a alternative lifestyle, and someone that I don't want to say someone that thinks for themselves, because I don't want to make it seem like alternative people think for themselves and everybody else are just sheep, because that's not really true. Because a lot of times, especially with the internet spaces, alternative people are starting to kind of become sheeple in these rigid views of what is and what isn't alternative. So I don't want to say that exactly, but there are new challenges to the norm now, and it is about being yourself and whatever it is that means to you, as long as you're not hurting anybody or doing anything that cause harm or anything like that. But when we try and pin down what really is alternative, we end up missing the point. It's not about, trying to fit into a specific box. It's about being comfortable with not fitting in at all, which is to be uncomfortable with being uncomfortable and committing to that for a lifetime, despite all of the stigma that may come with it. Ultimately, being alternative is about embracing yourself, expressing yourself authentically, and knowing yourself. It can be a very spiritual thing. For me, I view being alternative as an extension of my spirituality, and just being very introspective and very self-reflective, and being aware of myself and what my intentions are in the world, and living in a way that aligns with that. So for me, it's not about chasing the labels. It's not about checking boxes. It's not about living according to the standards of the internet and whatever they've decided about what it is to be alternative. It's about me just being me. The conversation that I wanted to have today is, with all of that said, who has the privilege of being perceived as being alternative in this space that we're in now, where there's a lot of contradictions and there's a lot of limited boxes that they want to fit everybody into, which is very counterproductive to actually being alternative. It's starting to become a little bit uniformy and a little bit conformist in order to try and fit in, which is, kind of like counterproductive. So I just want to present to you three examples. So somebody could be wearing no makeup, no body modifications, for all intents and purposes, look like a regular everyday person and identify as goth. And the internet will tell this person, no, you're not. You're a poser. You're fake. You're lying. You don't look the part. You don't belong here because they don't fit into the markers of what it is to be alternative. But then they'll take a picture like this. I want to insert it here. And it's just like a pale lady with brown hair. And their comment section will be like, Goth Queen, we loving Alt Daddy, and like hyping it up as like the best form and the best form, hyping it up as like the best form of validation of someone who is alternative, even though they might not even know what it means to be alternative. They may not identify with it. They may not listen to the music or do any of the things that you told the other girl that she had to do to identify as being goth or alternative. But then still take a picture like this, Yo Yo Suicide, who does all the things that you told the girl in the t-shirt and the jeans that she needed to do in order to be valid in her identity. And you're telling her that she's a poser, that she's fake, that she's a trend hopper, and everything. Mind you, she has micro braids. If you're not black, you may not understand this, but micro braids take a full day's work with multiple people working in your head. You can have 3 or 4 people braiding your hair and it will still take 12, it'll still take between 8 to 12 hours depending on how long your hair is and depending on how long the braids are. And that's with no breaks, let alone if you need to go to the bathroom, take a sip of water, eat, get a snack. If one of the people who are braiding your hair needs a break for some reason, or you want to just get up, take a walk, stretch your legs or something, like it's 8 to 12 hours to do micro braids with 3 people working in your hair with no breaks. And most people who get braids like this, they keep them in their head for like 3 to 4 months, okay? And Yo-Yo Suicide is wearing a lot of jewelry that she made. She's wearing a specific type of jewelry called candy, which is popular in the rave world. If you do not go to raves, if you're not a raver, if you're not into like industrial music, you're not into EDM, you're not even gonna know what candy is, let alone think that you're gonna go out of your way to find it, to curate an aesthetic, to try and be a poser for the internet. Like you would have to know what candy is and where to find it. And people typically don't even sell like rave wear. They make it and they trade it or they give it away to people at raves. So there's not even something that you can find on the internet in most places, let alone, something that you can just walk in a store and buy. It's not something that you can get at Hot Topics, Spencer's, Claire's, or any mainstream stores. You only see stuff like this on the internet, or when you go to festivals, when you go to raves, or when you're like at an art fair or a festival, and there's someone that is there to specifically sell that thing to you. But that's not even something that you would see every day. And even if it was, which it isn't, you would have to be involved in a particular type of community to even know what it is to seek it out to begin with. So that's not even something that someone can fake. Like you would have to know what to even look for in the first place to fake it to begin with. And to be honest, in my personal experience, most people are not even comfortable with the idea of being friends or being related or dating someone who is visibly alternative, let alone want to go through the effort of looking alternative. Like, people are okay with you looking alternative when you're on the internet, when you're in a goth or industrial club, when you're at a rave, when you're at a festival, because they feel like that aesthetic belongs in those spaces. But when it's time for you to just hang out, run errands, there's a birthday party, a wedding, a baby shower, they have something going on where they're inviting their coworkers, because some people are actually friends with their coworkers as well as other friends, and kind of mixing the friend groups. When there's like family stuff involved and they invite you around their family, they're not comfortable with you looking alternative around those other people. They're like embarrassed to be seen with you. They don't want to walk around with someone that looks alternative. Like, most people do not feel comfortable existing in the same space as alternative people. And I know that there are people that are going to be in a chat like, well, I dated an alternative person. Well, I was friends with an alternative person. But my mom, sister, cousin, brother is alternative, and I'm fine being comfortable around them. Okay, you're an anomaly to the rule. I'm saying, based on my personal experience, most people aren't even comfortable with the idea of being around someone who is visually alternative, especially when you're out in public, outside of the spaces that are deemed acceptable to be alternative at, like a festival, a concert, a rave, or something. They're like, okay, you're festive, you fit the vibe, you fit the theme, like you're doing a good job. But if they want to have some type of event where they're inviting their coworkers, their friends, their family, they might pull you aside and say, hey, I like your aesthetic and all, but I work this super corporate job and they don't really vibe with alternative people. Can you tone down your aesthetic just for this one thing? They might have like a barbecue or birthday or a baby shower or something at their house and invite you and be like, hey, do you mind toning down your appearance to meet my family? I don't feel like explaining to my 80-year-old auntie or my 75-year-old uncle what's going on with your aesthetic. That might be too much. Or, you know, my mom's side of the family, they're really conservative and they don't really like all this. Can you just, would it kill you to wear a t-shirt and jeans? Like, you're gonna have these conversations with people, you're gonna have those interactions with people. So the likelihood of someone doing going through this much effort to be a poser is crazy to me, because who wants to sit down for 8 to 12 hours and keep pink and black braids in their hair for 3 to 4 months on end just to chase clout on the internet that doesn't even like add up to anything of tangible value? Who is buying all these tools and supplies to make their own jewelry and sell it online and put themselves out there just to try and trick strangers on the internet into thinking that they are alternative when they're not. Like, who wants to do all of that just to pretend to be something that you're not? And that's a lot of commitment to do. And that's just like yo-yo suicide was popular when I was in high school. I don't know what she's doing in her life now, but she was like in her 30s back then. There was no TikTok. YouTube was in its infancy. Instagram didn't exist. Companies, like, there were no such thing as influencers back then. Like, she had nothing to gain from curating this aesthetic aside from promoting her own business and like posting on her vlog and like advertising her photography business. 'Cause I think that she was like a concert photographer. I remember seeing stuff like that on her blog because I remember she had a blogger, and I would go there frequently to see what she was up to because I just thought she was really cool. And I'd never seen a black alternative person before. When I found her, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So it's like, I don't know, like, you, before you guys call people posers, I think that you really need to analyze what even are your standards for being alternative in the first place. What is your definition for being alternative? And if you're gonna tell somebody in t-shirt and jeans that they're not alternative because they're not checking out the boxes, but then you're also gonna call somebody who is just pale with dark hair a goth queen and all that and hype them up, but you're gonna call a black person a poser for having colorful hair and having this sort of seeing emo, vibe aesthetic, then you really gotta question your own standards and everything, and just like, you just really gotta question, what do you even consider to be alternative anyways, and who do you feel like is valid enough to be in that space? Because a lot of you guys are contradicting yourselves, and what it really boils down to is racism, um, colorism, and you're exhibiting the same traits of mainstream culture that the alternative is supposed to be an alternative to. And I just really want you guys to analyze that, analyze your standards, and just think about that before you're so quick to call someone a poser or be mad and think that someone is being fake. Because it's like, most people aren't even comfortable being around alternative people in non alternative spaces as friends or family, let alone wants to go through all the effort, spend all the time, money, and energy to curate an aesthetic just to trick you into thinking that they're alternative when they're not, to capitalize off of, when once the trend passes and they move on to the next thing, they may still be stigmatized for it. The same way that actual alternative people have to go through it. So, what would even be the motive? Like, what do you even fully gain from it? So, that's just like the question of the day. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.